Hey, welcome to the Worderella Writes podcast with me, Belinda. I write and illustrate cozy fantasy romance, and this is a little sneak behind the scenes. I am so glad you're here today. Hey everybody. Welcome. Hey everybody. And welcome to another episode of Worderella Writes. This is attempt number 4. I don't know what's going on with my equipment, so this may be a shorter episode because as far as I'm concerned, I've been talking for an hour. But as far as you're concerned, this is going to be like a 5-minute episode. The joys of being an indie creative. Okay, so big thing that happened this week was a spirited engagement. The audiobook is out now. And when I say out, I mean the Kickstarter backers can now get it. It should be in their book funnel libraries now. And if you go to my website, which is worderella.com, then you can get your copy there. I made it $15 to try to make it easy. It is a little bit longer than Haunting Miss Trentwood, so I may eventually raise that price. I'm also not entirely sure I'm going to actually put a spirited engagement on retailers. They kind of perform highway robbery. It takes a couple thousand to produce an audiobook, and when you put it on Audible and Spotify, you'll get like $1 back for each sale. Most authors never recuperate their investment, but a lot of us feel that audiobooks are really important. It is a different mode of reading, and I want to support that in the same way that I try to keep my books wide so that way they can be in libraries if a reader so chooses. So that's exciting. At the end of the episode, we will hear a snippet from A Spirited Engagement. It's narrated by Tiana Hawley, and it is produced by AB Book Services. So that's all quite exciting. I'm just really looking forward to that. In terms of topics for this week to just chat through, I've been watching these Disney movie shorts from like the 1940s. You know, things like, let us watch how Goofy learns to play baseball, and let's see Goofy learn how to swim. They're fun, they're silly, and they're definitely the vibe that I will be striving for in the 3rd book of the Hesitant Medium series. But the topic for this week I thought we could chat about is, what is like a typical day in the life of a hesitant medium, starting from when she wakes up to when she goes to sleep. And I'm not going to go through like every nitpicky detail, but in general, I feel like the mediums wake up to a ghost needing something from them. So that's one of the major challenges of being a medium in my books, which are set like Victorian era London-ish, 1887 to 1889. So a very specific era, a very specific location. And with that, having servants in the house and stuff like that, there's not much privacy anyway, but a medium truly has no privacy. The ghosts can walk through walls, right? Like there's nothing you can do to really stop them. That's not entirely true. Go read Sir Hubert's Handbook for the Recently Haunted. That is also on my store, where he teaches you a couple tricks to sort of bound a ghost to a particular location, or bind a ghost to a particular location. So all that being said, a medium wakes up, ghost needs her for something. She may or may not have had her morning coffee yet, and she's going through her day. She may look at a list of calling cards, which will probably be a list of people subtly asking for help with whatever haunting problem that they have. She'll meet up with friends for lunch. Hopefully the restaurant that they go to is not haunted. If it is, she will probably spend most of her meal trying to get the ghost to ignore her so that she can just eat her meal. The ghosts in my stories are very annoying. They're obnoxious, they're opinionated, and they're usually pretty annoyed that they are no longer living. So one of the benefits or joys of being a medium is getting to help a soul, whether it's living or in its afterlife, resolve some, whether it's concerns, confusion, whatever, so that way they can feel settled in their current state. And I think that's the thing I love about the hesitant mediums, is that they, as much as they struggle with their sense, and I talk more about what is the sense with a capital S in episode 3, but there's something about being a hesitant medium in my stories that requires the character to have somewhat of a servant mind, because yes, she is freelancing as a medium. She is an entrepreneur, but she also is providing a very specific service that's usually tied to grief and all the things that come with it. So if a medium gets to help anyone with her abilities, that's a little spark of joy, a little out some serotonin for her. If she's lucky, she has communicated quiet hours with her ghosts that are in her house. And so that way she can sit down and read a book, or she can do some needlepoint, or she could just stare out the window at the street, just completely check out for a bit. The point is, she has taken advantage of Sir Hubert's guide handbook on ghost etiquette and establishing boundaries. And, if she is brave enough to host a dinner party, then she likely has had a lot of conversations with the ghosts in her house to not scare off her guests. So it's a lot of managing. And as a former manager of a team, this honestly just really tickles me that I didn't even think about this when I was writing it. But now that I'm really digging into it, the day of a hesitant medium is basically all about managing the people who are living around you and managing the people who are not. And trying to make sure that interdependent relationships are good. Is everyone safe and healthy? And are we getting our jobs done? And where do we see growth and opportunity? So, of course, growth and opportunity for a ghost would be they go to beyond, and they're no longer on this mortal physical plane. Something for a living person would be letting go of the person or the soul, the spirit that is haunting them, and giving them permission to move on to the next. Because, there's a lot there. And even though I write about ghosts, I do try to make it fun and funny, It's almost like I'm engaging in the Victorians were very concerned with death and how to dress around death, a death in the family or a friend. There are different grief lengths of time depending on the relationship you had with that person. And maybe I'll go into that in another episode, but it's really quite fascinating. There's a reason why Mary wears purple all the time. It's because she is in half mourning for her dad. And the fact that we have full mourning, half mourning, quarter mourning, and there are women's clothing in particular that correlate with the stage of grief in terms of duration in a calendar year, it's just wild, absolutely wild. So I'll mark that down as an episode opportunity in the future. We'll chat a little bit more about that. I think that's it for this week. Like I said, I have tried to record this episode a couple times, so I really hope this recording takes. I will leave you with the sample from A Spirited Engagement. And this week, I think my question will be for you, what's something you would like to learn about how Victorians handled grief, death, funerals, all those sorts of things? I'll try to make it fun and lively, but there's only so much you can do. I'm also working on book 3. I just drew some chibis of Edith and Dhruvesh, who are our couple in that book. I'm very excited to dig back in. I'm looking forward to it. And with everything that's gone on in this house this week, so many illnesses. January is the absolute worst, you guys. So I hope you find an awesome mood read to get you through whatever's happening for you. And in the meantime, let's listen to this snippet. I'll see you next time. And again, what are some details that you'd like to learn about Victorian grief, funeral, those sort of things. And I'll catch you next time.
Jasper touched the amethyst which still lay in her palm. When he looked at her again, his expression had softened. When did the spirits reveal themselves to you? Mary only began seeing ghosts after her father's ghost finally rested. Tessa tilted her head. Interesting how he referred to her as Mary rather than Miss Trentwood, and that he knew details about her ability to see the spirits. She swallowed the sudden sour note of jealousy sitting at the tip of her tongue. "I've always seen the spirits," she replied, "but it happens far more often with my parents' death. I believe they shielded me when they lived." "Do they haunt you now?" Jasper looked around the room, waiting for someone to jump out of the corners. "Does who haunt? My parents?" "No, what a rude thing to ask." Jasper blinked. "My apologies." Tessa moved to the window, looking out to the calm courtyard below. The neighboring house shared the courtyard, but if she remembered correctly, The elderly woman living there only came out for a bit of sun a couple times a week. "Does your uncle see the ghosts, too?" Jasper said, trying again. "No, I inherited this from my mother." Jasper nodded. She was rather exotic. Tessa's jaw tightened. "Only as exotic as my father was in her home country." Jasper raised his hands. "I meant no offense. She had a wonderful singing voice, if I remember." Tessa turned from the window at that comment. "You knew my mother?" At this, Jasper colored. "I believe my mother hired your mother for a couple of seances. And so we come back to my original question. Do you know how to help me beyond a single night's sleep?" It was now Tessa's turn to study Jasper, and while she looked him over, he also stood taller, puffing his chest ever so slightly, pulling his shoulders back. He was a rumpled mess, and she rather liked him for it. It was clear last night that Jasper wished to be seen as rather a dandy, so she enjoyed seeing him mussed up. She preferred this genuine openness and concern. "Not yet," she admitted. "I haven't yet had my morning coffee." Jasper smiled. "Well, by all means, let's get you some coffee."
Thanks for joining me today. You can find my signed and illustrated editions, bookish merch, and bullet journals for writers on my website, Worderella.com. Regular editions of my fiction are available at libraries and all major retailers. Worderella Writes runs as a single annual season with roughly 10 episodes running from January to April each year. Connect with me, Belinda Kroll, through the reader poll in the show description, on Instagram as Worderella, on Patreon as Worderella, or my website, Worderella.com. That's Cinderella, but with words. If you enjoyed this episode, support the podcast by sharing it with a friend, leaving a 5-star rating and review, and subscribing so you never miss an episode. Until next time, take care, and may all your mood reads be excellent.